Shalom, and welcome here to the old city of Yerushalayim, here in Sholoshim, the shop, the biblical shop. For those of you that don't know, this is a place where, in addition to having items of biblical nature, books, art, it was really a place for people to gather and feel free to ask all the questions they always wanted to ask about Judaism, about Israel, about the politics in Israel. But really it was a place to empower people to realize that if you're coming to Israel, you don't just happen to come to Israel. God invites, God asks you to come, and you decided to listen and you came. Now today, I know God is asking many people to be patient and come when the time was right. So until then, we're using this venue as a way to do what we usually do in the shop: share, discuss, and talk. We started already with an article or two, but we want to head and prepare for Pesach. And so we're going to focus today on Pesach. Our sages described that the 30-day period between Purim and the festival of Purim and the festival of Pesach is a time of preparation. It's not by happenstance that one is celebrated before the other. Purim represents that festival in which God's hand is hidden. We don't see it. And it teaches us to gain the strength and the power and the ability to see God that's simply hidden. And we do that in order to then prepare for the Passover festival, because the Passover festival is about a sense of liberation, a sense of seeing God working in the world and freeing us from all those things that keep us bound down. So we begin with Purim, and we end up into the newer or more open revelation of Pesach. Enslaved people who come out of slavery, need to prepare themselves spiritually in order to truly be free, in order to even know what freedom tastes like, in order to know that they've achieved a sense of freedom. Because when you're enslaved, you lose that power. And the truth is, we're all still enslaved. We don't need a pharaoh. We're enslaved to our whims. We're enslaved to our ego. We're trapped by the expectations of society around us, telling us how we're supposed to feel and what we're supposed to feel. We're imprisoned by our own uncertainties, our own doubts. Things keep us down. And the time between Purim and Pesach, or Passover, is really a way to learn to step out of that trap of sensing that the world is all filled with happenstance. That's what Purim is all about, to teach us that it's not. And enter into a season of Passover that's defined by a re-understanding and a conception and a realization of our own personal and national destiny. Our sages tell us in Masechet Pesachim, "Bechol dor v'dor chayav adam le'rot et atzmo ki'ilu hu yatsa miMitzrayim." In every generation, one is supposed to sense that I am exiting Egypt. Rambam actually says, "Ki'ilu ata yatsa miMitzrayim." Not that he exited from Egypt, but that he right now, in this festival, you're exiting your own Egypt. Let me explain that for a second. Let me explain, first of all, the concept of festivals and the concept of time. In the world, time is linear. It goes from one to another to another. In Judaism, time is cyclical. In the Bible, it's cyclical and spiral. Specific dates, specific times are appointed gates by which we go through as we go higher in that cycle. Time is not a raging river that takes us from point A and rushes us down to point B, but actually it's an invitation to an invited time, to a moed, which is what the Bible, one of the words God uses to describe his festivals. Even the word for time in Hebrew is zman. Zman is the same word as zimun, hazmanah. Time invites us forward. It doesn't drag us from where we are to someplace we don't know. It's actually inviting us to step forward. And not only that, we see something else. We see that the festivals are called Mikra'e Kodesh, Leviticus 23:35. the Baal HaTanya and the Chidush Harim, two great Hasidic leaders, understood Mikrei Kodesh as being a feeling that these festivals are a calling of holiness. They're trying to take out from us something that exists within us, a spark that's within us. Each festival in its own way. The Feast of Tabernacles teaches us the ability we have to truly trust in God. The Feast of Shavuot, of Pentecost, teaches us that God is speaking to us at all times. We just have to learn how to tune our ears. And the festival of Passover teaches us how to break out of our own slavery. Even the word for constraints in Hebrew, mitzarim, is the same word as Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is about our own enslavement. So what we're going to be doing in the articles that we'll be putting out is really helping us prepare to be ready to break out of those molds and imprisonment and chains and shackles that we're connected to. But I want to, in this short lesson, just to touch on one fascinating other concept. In fact, I was once asked by some group in America, I don't remember who they were, but they do a teaching and trying to push the family, the concept of family, and help people understand the concept of family. And they asked me, can you describe what is it about the Jewish people? What is it about their incredible focus on family? What's that all about? So I first told them about the Shabbat. The Shabbat is an incredible opportunity for us to get together as a family every week, speak to each other, share with each other. But I then moved to Pesach. The formation of this Jewish people is constituted. The bricks that make up this people is family. If you remember, if I were to write a Hollywood script about the Exodus from Egypt, I would describe a people gathering with banners and flags and trumpets, and they would gather in Tahrir Square in Cairo, and they would declare that we are now going out as a people free. Dramatic, wonderful. Except that's not what happened. God says, you know what? I want every one of you, every family, go into your own homes. Shut the door. Just stay together as a family. That's going to be the building block of this people. The verses, Exodus 12, 21 to 24, Moshe summons all the elders of Israel and said to them, draw forth and buy for yourself sheep for your families, slaughter the Passover for sacrifice for your family. You shall keep this matter as a statute for you and for your children forever. The family gathered together. And you know what they gathered together to do? They gathered together to be together, eat together, celebrate together, but they were celebrating something that hadn't happened yet. They were celebrating a promise. They were celebrating a faith. Hashem said he was going to take them out, and he was going to take them out, and they were ready to begin to celebrate now. But how do you get the strength to do that? You don't do it if you're sitting alone in front of a computer. You do it when you're with your family. When in your family you see the past, you see the present, and you see the future. That's where you get the strength to believe in the future. That's where you get the strength to believe in a destiny. And so what Hashem did is he brought all the families together, grandparents, parents, children, babies. This is your future right here. Trust that this family will give you the strength. So every child remembers in that Passover Seder standing up before a room full of family and saying the Manishtana questions. And everybody in that family listening to this child asking questions and even suggesting thoughts that he had learned or she had learned in school. Do you know how empowering that is for a child? To see that everybody around them is watching them? And you know how powerful it is for the parent to see that that child is focusing on, growing with, learning God's truth. Past, present, and future, all is ensconced in having a family coming together. That truly is one of the dramatic lessons that Hashem taught us in the first Passover in Egypt. May we all learn to grow with that, and may we use this Passover and this Pesach to really come into our own, be very much aware of who we are, where we come from and where we're going, but live the moment, enjoy the moment, celebrate the moment, because this moment leads to the next moment and leads to that cycle of time that is an invitation to that moed. So until then, we'll talk about Pesach again next week. But Shabbat Shalom. And we're beginning the book of Leviticus, which is an awesome book on its own. We'll talk about that as well. Misunderstood in most of the world, but it is a book that really describes how is one going to bring something to Hashem. Hashem has everything. What do we do? How do we celebrate with Him? So the focus is Pesach this week and next week, and then we'll continue with the book of Leviticus. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting us. Those of you that have gone to our website and gone to the shop and ordered things or studies and everything else, that's been extremely helpful to us because there's really no one coming in now. But all of that will change. As Shabbat Shalom until our next encounter. Thank you for listening.